We are in Alaska on a Dall Sheep hunt. We just recently released our new backcountry nutrition program. One of the things I wanted to point out was this. It's good to always have two different types of carb sources. So this is a homemade oat and protein bar that I make. Slow digesting carbs for long fuel. These are fast digesting carbohydrates, obviously in the form of gummy bears. It's nice when you need something quick, you have fast digesting. It's nice whenever you need something slow and stable to have something that's slow digesting. So that combination, rather than picking one camp or another, is a really great way to make sure that you stay fueled through the course of an entire hunt.
Hey everyone, as you probably guessed, we're going to go over a lot of what I took on my 12-day Dall sheep hunt in Alaska last year, and I wanted to do a little bit different of a video than what you typically see on this, which is like pack dumps and just, basically a list of what people bring. And what I wanted to do different was really try to provide some background information on how I planned this out for myself and how I plan this out for clients of ours as well, using 5 different tips. And the fifth one's not so much a tip as just kind of a often forgotten element of this. And so I wanted to walk you through that as well, just talk through some practical things that I did that saved me a ton of time and headache. There's actually 2 things at the end that I'll share that I didn't think about beforehand, but as I started to plan, really helped on the logistics side of things. So there are 5 things, like I said, that we really try to build things around for people as well as ourselves when you're looking at big pushes like this or big adventures like this. And so for us, this was a 20-mile hike into the Alaska wilderness where we were hunting for Dall sheep. And so it was 20 miles in before we even really started hunting. And then whatever our hunts looked like from there, which we had a base camp and hunted out of that. One of the things that most people put the most attention to is calories. They build their plans around total calorie needs, and that's really not what we often do for people. And honestly, I'll often say, I really don't care if there's sufficient calories, if they're the right type of calories. I'd rather you have the right sources of nutrition and not have enough calories than to have all the calories in the world and they be from the wrong type of things. And so as we go through this video, we'll continue to kind of explain and parse out what that means exactly. So one of the first things that we try to build things around are slow digesting carbohydrates. And so there's really 2 types of carbohydrates when you stop splitting hairs and worrying about nuances, and that's slow processing as well as quick processing. So we're going to talk about both of those because they each have their case use. But with the slow digesting carbohydrates, you could think of them as a very long piece of chain connected by chain links. The value of the slow processing carbs is that your body is able to parse out when it needs fuel, take one of those links from the chain, apply it to what you need for fuel, and leave the remainder of the chain there. And each time you need fuel, it takes the link, applies it, takes the link, applies it, until you use all of that fuel. So those type of sources really provide great satiety, great fullness. You're not hungry 25 minutes after you eat again. But they also really provide long-lasting fuel and prevent you from having these big dips and rises in energy throughout anything. That's true of ultras, that's true of ski events, that's true of backpacking, that's true of hunting, that's true of anything that requires energy out of you. Now, the second thing that we build it around is single carbohydrates, fast use carbohydrates. So that chain that we talked about with slow digesting could take a really long time to break down. Fast is near instantaneous, and so there's going to be times during the course of an event or a hunt or an ultra or whatever where you're pushing harder and you need faster fuel, or it's been a while since you've eaten and you need something immediately. And so those faster fuel sources really have a case use then too. So we want part of that in there. Now, the one that probably gets the most attention and probably shouldn't is protein. So protein is important, and obviously we want to include that. Now, the hardest thing with big trips where you're backpacking in and you're away from a camp or you're away from a truck is you don't have anything to refrigerate that, right? And so getting sources in to get enough protein whenever you're hunting or hiking or spending time off trail. It's trying to find ways to sneak that in the quantity that you need. So there were a couple of things, really two, that I leaned heavy on for this big hunt to make sure that I was getting plenty of protein in, and so I want to share that with you guys as well. Fourth, electrolytes, drinks, etc. So there's, this is not just about nutrition and electrolyte replacement and sodium replacement. It's also about just enjoying it. You spend a lot of time sitting whenever you're hunting, and so having something to pass that time so you're not feeling like you're just bored and eating through your pack by 10 a.m. You've got something there that can sort of pacify the time, keep you awake and alert. Fifth, and maybe most important, also most overlooked, is just liking it. And so one of the things that we do that is different from a lot of places when we're planning these things for people or we're planning them for ourselves is we start with, what do you want? What do you like? Forget what you should have. Forget what sounds right. Forget the macros. Forget the calorie density. Forget the calories per ounce of weight. Forget all of that. Start thinking about what it is that you like and then begin to work backwards on your needs from there. Because it doesn't matter if you've got a pack full of what you should have. If you don't want it, it'd be better to have a pack full of what you want to have and not need it than vice versa. So we're gonna start looking at a couple of different things that I took on this trip from a practical standpoint that really helped meet all of my fueling needs over the duration of this hunt. So number one, starting with breakfast. Now this, we'll have, let me explain what it is and then I'll tell you where you can find it. So this is, as you can see, in a vacuum pack, and it's a combination of granola, protein powder, oats, powdered peanut butter, coconut, dried coconut milk, nuts, seeds, fruit, etc. There's almost 700 calories and over 35, 40 grams of protein in this, and you can see how small it is. This is gonna be a great combination of the slow digesting, the fast digesting carbohydrates, a great source of protein, and obviously a ton of calories. And so even though I don't often worry about getting enough calories in because they're not that significant of a hunt, this was different. I did have to pay attention to that because the energy expenditure was so high and I didn't have unlimited pack space because we were going in for 12 days plus camp. So really trying to make sure that I get in enough nutrition in a small package. So calorie density was important. And this was actually a recipe that we got off of our friend Mark, and we have this on our website. So if you're interested in looking at what this is, I'll put a link below. You can go to the website, you can check it out and try to make it yourself. I will tell you this, a great way to add variety over the duration of a hunt for something like this, or multiple days on trail, great for thru hikers as well, is to go to a place that sells bulk foods, buy a variety of different granolas, different flavored protein powders, all different fruits, different dried fruits, different nuts, etc. And that really allows you to have different ones. So this is a cherry granola, I had a cinnamon raisin, I had a chocolate, I had a French vanilla, I had a ton of different ones, and so every day was waking up and it was like having something new again. Now, I wouldn't roll out of the tent and necessarily start eating this. I might eat half when I first wake up. I might eat the other half later at 10 a.m. while we're glassing if I get hungry again. And one of the things that I loved so much about it was you just cut it open. You could pour half of it in a little cup if you had one, like the bottom of a jet boil. But then you can take the rest of it if you eat it all at once, and you can just mix it all up in the package, and it's self-contained. So it was super nice from that standpoint, but a really great breakfast item for something like this because it's got those combination of different nutrients to make sure that you last and stay strong through the duration of a hunt. One thing that was significantly different about this than what I'll normally do is I didn't have a lunch. Usually I have some kind of tortilla combination of something to take and eat around lunchtime, but given the fact that we were going to be back there for 12 days, there's not a lot that would stay good that long, and tortillas don't stay great once you start putting condiments on it, so that was out. Instead, I really focused on just having almost like a backcountry charcuterie where there was just a variety of things that I liked, provided great nutrition, good sources of fuel, good sources of protein for recovery, and I could kind of eat that through the day. Now, one thing that I have found to last pretty well in the backcountry, if it's going to be relatively colder temperatures, is something like salami, and this is low fat mozzarella cheese. I get the low fat because less fat means less likely to spoil. Usually cheese will start getting limp after a few days because of all the fat content, but if you get low fat, this tends to stay well. If it's getting cold at night, you bury it in the bottom of your pack and you treat it well. Same with salami. Usually there is enough preservatives and salt in this stuff that you don't even need colder temperatures, but I still like to have it just to be on the safe side. And so I would package up a couple of these, a few pieces of salami for each day of that hunt to try to get good protein in, good variety in, etc. I would also take along with me different snacks. So I really like these Nature Valley, these are almond butter biscuits, and so you have almond butter in the middle of these. I used to take the Belvita crackers and then squirt almond butter on them. This just is a lot less messy. Obviously, Snickers needs no explanation. I also really loved this. So I would take a small baggie of this every day of about 300 calories. Some of this stuff, you start getting so tired of having sweet stuff, so it's nice to have something more salty and savory. So there's a Cajun blend that I like. There's also a Tex-Mex blend that I like. And it just breaks up having, your typical raisins, M&Ms, and peanuts variety, and provides great nutrition throughout the course of the day. Now, another thing that I took, and this was the second thing that really played a big role on me trying to get good protein and calories in, are these muffins. And these are just ones that I make at home in a muffin tin made up of protein powder, oats, peanut butter, different fruits, chocolate chips, a variety of different things. Both of these together come in around 600 or 700 calories and almost 30 or 40 grams of protein. So between these two things alone, I'm sitting at almost 1,400 calories and almost half of my protein needs just in these two small things. So these were huge. The recipes for both of these are on the website. And what I love about both of them is they are both a great combination of slow processing carbohydrates, fast processing carbohydrates, nutrient dense foods with lots of nuts and seeds, as well as a good source of protein. So these were huge, they tasted great, and I would just eat on them throughout the course of the day. I might have one of these in the morning, one of them later in the afternoon, glassing or whatever, but I would try to stretch those out through the course of the day.
I think the most memorable part, like this crazy long pause, just waiting to hear. Yep. Once you enough, you want it. Like all of a sudden, whoop, safety out. I think it helped. I've been watching him the whole time.
That brings us obviously to the evening meals. Now, I've done a variety of things before. I dehydrate most all of my meals on my own now. I did not on this one because these typically don't have a lot of fat in them. I didn't want to take in olive oil and all of this other stuff. So I leaned a little more on the packaged meals. They tend to be more calorie dense. They tend to have a lot more calories in the packaging, and so that's what I ended up doing. Now, what we do on these often is we will open these up, dump them into a smaller baggie like this, and so it saves a ton of space. Now, I will take one of these and, it'll fold flat. I'll take one of these and take it with me and just eat out of that for the entire trip to rehydrate my meals. I have before and often do, it doesn't bother me at all, just to make them in my jet boil or my cup or whatever. I just rinse it out afterwards, but this was a lot more convenient because I was using my cup and my jet boil for so many different things, different drinks throughout the course of the day, and it was just nice not to have to clean up at the end of the day. But it is a huge savings on space, dumping these out, putting them in a baggie, and then using one of these, just stuff it in like your water bladder pouch, completely flat, and you can use it to rehydrate your meals throughout the duration of the trip. Leads us to different fast digesting carbohydrates as well as different drinks. Now, there's a lot of things that you can take. I'm not going to say that what I use is the only way to use it. It's not at all. It's just what I tend to have around and what I tend to like. Of course, if you have saw anything that we've put out over the years, we do a lot of gummy bears, gummy worms. This trip was actually fueled by gummy lifesavers, which was a nice break, but I like these because I can choose the dose, right? If I want one or two, I can take one or two out of my pouch on my hip belt, eat them, keep moving. Whereas things like gels and hydration mixes, you're committed, right? You pop that thing open, it's the full Monty during one sitting. With this, I can parse out what I like. They sit well with me. I always just enjoy them, and so that's what I tend to take. Now, you do have a variety of different powders that you can take. Some of them come in single servings. Some of them, this is a 2-serving packet. Some of them you can just make your own. And we've had people over the years use everything from the, branded, more expensive, sort of bougie versions of Tailwind and Scratch Labs and some of that stuff. And then we've had people just do Country Time Lemonade and Tang with the same results. Now, I would say that if you're on a really early hunt or you're doing an ultra that's in August and July and June, you're sweating a lot, these provide quite a bit more nutrition. You get more potassium, you get more magnesium, you get more sodium, you get more electrolytes, and that's obviously going to help you quite a bit in a lot of those situations. But you want those fast-acting carbohydrates if you're behind on your fueling and you need an immediate source of fuel. Maybe you got busy chasing something, and you haven't eaten in a while and you don't have the time to stop. There's a variety of things and reasons why you might want to lean on these, but it is something that's really nice to have in the pack to lean on, so you're not waiting a really long time for those chains to break down and deliver some fuel to you. Last but not least, 2 things that I sort of fell into in trying to plan for this from a logistics standpoint. The first is, when you're going that far in, space savings, weight savings seems to be kind of the number one thing that you're focused on. And so I have a really light stove, and it's this cup combination that has a stove that goes on the bottom of it, and it just sits there. Now, what's interesting about it is that it is light, but it uses a ton of fuel because there's nothing to concentrate that flame into the actual vessel itself. And so I really nerded out and tried to determine how much fuel I use to get boiled, 12 to 16 ounces of water to boil in that, versus something like a jet boil that has these fins that really concentrates that flame and cuts down on the boil time. And so what I found was I actually use a significant amount less fuel using this than I do using this. And as I teased the mouth out on that, I found that it was almost an entire canister less. And so I took something that was heavier because it was more efficient. It ultimately meant less weight in my pack because I was carrying less fuel based on the amount of times that I was estimating to really need my fuel sources. So look at those things, because even though something may not make sense to take on paper from a total weight standpoint, it could mean a weight savings for you if you really play some of that out and look at the different parameters. Now, from a packing standpoint, one thing that we'll do is we'll take the whole day's food and put it in a gallon Ziploc bag. This is a quart, but we'd put it in, a gallon or even quart-sized Ziploc baggies, and then label that for one day, and that would be for that day. What we do then is we would take that and put it in a separate stuff sack. And so this is just one off of a Thermarest. So you could use it to air up your pad as well. But what was nice about this is that because you're backpacking, you'll usually put your food somewhere towards the top, and you're taking out 12 bags of food. If you're back there for 12 days and you've got food scattered everywhere, getting your gear out, and then you have to pack it all back in. With this, I could just lift all 12 days out, set it to the side, get whatever I needed out of the pack, set up camp, etc., take the whole thing, put it back in, and I wasn't constantly having to transfer all of these bags of food and deal with trying to, rummage through them to find things in the pack. And so this was a huge help, just sorting through the logistics of making sure that all the food stayed in one place, and I wasn't having to, barrel through it and rummage through it to get to it all. So there you have it. Concentration on the things that actually matter in the backcountry, the why behind them, which hopefully makes you guys feel like you've got a ton of options on the table now that you understand how some of those fueling things work. Like I said, anything that requires an ingredient, from the oat package, the granola that we make, to the bars, to some other stuff that we've taken, all of that is on the website, and I will link that here so you can check that out. We've got a dehydrate guide that you can look at, a DIY dehydrate guide. So if you're interested in kind of starting down the road of dehydrating your own food, you can check that out as well. And if you have any questions about any of this, you can leave them in the comments. We want to do more of these type of videos, so I'd love to know what you guys want to see. Or you can email me directly at info@v2pnutrition.com. And hopefully we'll see you back here again with another new video soon.